Hello there, Baconites. That's right, I did say Baconites. Welcome to yet again another one of our episodes of the official Bellingham anime podcast. This episode is our first recorded through Skype. Skype, bringing you together and then crashing. My guest today is someone that you haven't heard of, but hopefully you will hear about more of her soon. She was the winner of the 2017 Bacon Mascot Contest. Please welcome Berserkbrandee. Brandee, thanks for being here with me.
Sup?
So, this was actually sort of a last-minute thing. Things didn't quite go as I'd hoped, but luckily we have you to fill in the blanks for us, so I really appreciate you coming on the show and you know, making sure that we can actually have one this month. So, let's talk real quick about this and I'm going to throw the mascot up on the screen right here. So let's talk about this real fast. So this design, I mean, what was it that inspired you to create like this particular design? Obviously our theme for this coming year is RPG, and you saw the original mascot, but what was it that made you do this specifically with Bella?
Well, a lot of people are familiar with like Sword Art Online the most, and I've played quite a few like RPGs and JRPGs, I guess if you'd call them that, I guess. And I just took some of the elements from Sword Art Online and like some other RPGs that I've played and kind of smashed them together and tried to do what I thought would look good for her.
Right. And I mean, it did turn out really, really nice, and I thought that you did, personally, I thought you did very excellent. I actually, and I want to put this out there, so Brandee and I have an interesting relationship in that we are in a relationship, but I had no bearing on the vote for the mascot contest. I wasn't even there. I wasn't even present for the vote, so there was actually no bias, and just, you know, I was super ecstatic when I found out that you had won. Again, since I wasn't there, you know, and I was kind of on the edge of my seat going, you know, who won? And finally, when I got the answer back, I was pretty excited. But, I mean, for you, how did it feel when you received that email that, you know, that just said...
Congratulations, you won!
How did that feel?
Well, I looked at it, I'm just like, oh my god, I won something. Yay!
Yeah, finally, you know, it's one of those things for sure.
I don't usually win contests. I'm just kind of like the person that loses all the time.
So, I mean, I've been in the same boat. I recall one time, actually the first time that anybody ever drew my OC for me was I had won an art giveaway, and the person was mildly popular. They weren't the most popular person on Tumblr or really like in any art circles, but the post that it was, you know, just reblogged this post and it had quite a bit of notes on Tumblr, and so, and I'd admired this person's art since I was 14, I want to say, and so they, you know, she sends me a message back and just goes, hey, you won the contest, I guess, and I was just kind of like fanning myself like, oh my god. So I know what it's like to not really, you know, to be a participant sometimes but not really get anything done and suddenly have a win. So that's always good to have. Actually, there was this that reminded me, the first time that I ever won something, like ever in my whole life, and they mispronounced my name and I didn't know
I know that
I
feeling.
won. It was at one of those things where, I'm trying to think of what it was. It was like, they come to your school, and there's like money games and stuff like that. I don't know if you've ever experienced those. I don't think I really experienced them outside of like when I was living on the East Coast for a while, when I was living out in Delaware. But there was these guys, they would come to the school, and you could go in like a chamber, and there would be a big fan, and money would blow all around you, and you would grab as much as you could, or like you would wear like a Velcro suit and fling yourself at a wall, and if you landed high enough, you would get like $20. And then they also had like a prize drawing, and so during the prize drawing, like everybody sits down, and they called my name, but they mispronounced it, and I didn't realize that I had won anything. Until, so of course, nobody stood up, so they just drew another name, and then I realized, I was like, oh, wait a second. And I tried recovering it at the last second by getting up as the same time as the second person, but oh no, you didn't stand up in time, so I didn't win the cool hat.
Yeah, I don't think my mom allowed me to do any of those things when I was a kid.
Yeah.
She was like, no, you're gonna get hurt. I'm like, okay.
It was, I think this was one of the few times where it actually occurred, like, during school hours. It was just, like, instead of having our last couple of hours of class, they just let the kids go to this thing, which was always nice. But, anyways, so, I want to talk a bit about your art and, like, you doing art. Like, you've been doing art for a long time. How long... Like, when was it that you started really getting into doing stuff?
Well, I've been drawing since forever, since I can remember. I didn't really start taking it, like, super seriously until, like, probably 6th or 7th grade when I got my drawing tablet. Like, when I first got my drawing, when I made a DeviantArt account and everything, that's when I started being like, hey, I could probably do this for a living, possibly.
I mean, it's good. I've personally, like, I've seen your art grow over the years, and it was good when I saw it a couple of years ago. I think it's been about 2 years or so, and it's good now. So, like, what exactly do you want to do with your art or are you hoping to do with your artistry, like, in the future?
Well, after I get done with college or whatever, I'm hoping that, like, I could probably, like, get a job at, like, a game studio for, like, character design or something like that. Or even just, like illustrating books or something.
I mean, that would be a super cool idea as well. I mean, there's always people looking for artists. I've always kind of wondered sometimes, because you go into a bookstore, you just go down the aisle and you see all sorts of all these really intricate covers, and you're like, who did that?
I don't really go into bookstores, right. So I wouldn't know.
I mean, I don't go to bookstores too often. I think I go to Barnes and Noble. I think I go to once every 6 months maybe, but every now and then I'm at the store and I'll go down just to, like, the book aisle, like the single book aisle, and I'll kind of look at the stuff that they have there. I'll see if there's any cool new Star Wars books or, like, some new sci-fi or something like that. And there's always, like, these really cool cover arts, and you never really see, like, who drew those. If I don't really ever see the credit that's given even in the books. So that's kind of disappointing, but who knows, maybe that'll change soon, I hope. Because now that I'm older, when I was younger, it was like, somebody drew Harry Potter, and now I'm like, who made this art? So I think it would be cool, to see you doing really anything, with what you want to do. Now, you did your first Artist Alley at a convention. What was that like for you? And, like, did it kind of meet your expectations? Did it exceed your expectations? Like, how was it? How did you how did you feel going into it and coming out of it?
I was super nervous, like, the entire week building up to it. And Friday came so quickly, and I was just like, super nervous, and I could barely sleep. I was too excited and nervous, and as you know, I only got 3 hours of sleep on Friday night because I was so nervous and I was up pretty late.
Right, I recall that, yeah.
And, like, it was a relatively small convention. It was in a town of maybe 10,000, maybe 100,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't like a big convention like, say, Sioux Falls or New York Comic Con.
Yeah.
It was like super small. But, and this being my first convention, I had only gotten, only made 4 prints digitally, and I got 15 of each of the prints. And I wasn't sure if that was going to be enough, so I spent some of Friday night just making up these, like sketched prints, whatever, that I did with my Prisma markers on, regular cardstock paper.
Mm-hmm.
And the next morning, when we went to go to the convention, and after we got everything set up at the artist alley, I was just doing that for a good majority of the day. I didn't sell that much of them, but sold like 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah, and I mean, that's always a risk that you have to take, unfortunately. Hopefully it's, it gets better with time. Would you say that you learned anything, like, from that experience that you could apply to a future Artist Alley kind of venture?
Bring more Prisma markers. I had not really used those 2 Prisma markers a whole lot, and I got them, I think the last time I went down to Sioux Falls, or it was the time before that. No, wait, it was when I was up in Aberdeen with my sister. I bought 2 Prisma markers from the Hobby Lobby there, and that was about August, and I didn't really use them that much, except for like a couple times on occasion. But so I thought I would be fine. Halfway through the convention, both of them died out.
Oh, wow.
So my mom had to go and buy me like a cheap pack of just regular off-brand markers.
Yeah.
That they weren't even like art markers. They weren't like the alcohol-based kind like the Prisma and Copics are. They were just like school kids markers.
Oh, jeez, yeah, like the washable like Crayola markers.
They weren't even Crayola. They were just knockoffs.
Oh, jeez.
Like they worked, but by the end of that convention, the gray one was gone.
Oh God.
There was no coming back from that one.
Yeah.
So, I think another thing I took of that is to bring more markers, and probably only do black and white.
Yeah.
The gray was like a good contrast, and I had like a bright background on like each of them with my neon Sharpies, because I hadn't used those neon Sharpies a whole lot, so I wanted it to like pop out a bit,
mm-hmm.
which was a good idea, because I feel like that made it a bit more attractive than just like the just regular like grayscale.
I mean, over the years, like, going to conventions, I've definitely seen a lot of people that do that, and a lot of times they are just kind of the black and white, just, a simple sketch done over with marker, and they're usually only a couple of dollars. They're pretty cheap just because the person wanted to, create a little extra, and it usually looks really good, though, but having that color is also something that's going to attract more people, in my opinion. So it's one of those things that you sort of have to balance out, like, do I want to waste my markers, or do I want more people to come and look at my stuff and potentially buy it? So, but, like, that's just my opinion as, like, a consumer. Like, I'm more likely to look at something that's colorful, I guess, than something that's just... Because a lot of times, if it's just black and white, you're not necessarily gonna see it, I guess. I don't really know. But, so, having... Oh, go on.
And that's why I was using, like, the neon ones, because, like, when you see neons, it attracts your eyeball, like, a lot more than just, like, a regular, like, tone of, like, redwood.
Yeah, for sure. Now, this, having been your first Artist Alley and having got that experience that you have now, what would you say... Do you have any tips for anybody who would be considering it like you were?
Don't forget to eat and hydrate yourself.
Oh, that's just a good tip, really, for any convention at all.
I forgot. I didn't eat the majority of the day until like 5 o'clock. I had an iced coffee on the way down to Mitchell, because I got up at like 5:30, maybe even 4:30, and I was just so tired. My mom bought me an iced coffee from like Walmart, and I drank it like before we even got there, and like after a while she went to McDonald's to get me something to drink because I was super thirsty, and she got me a pumpkin spice latte or whatever, but it was like a really small one, so She also got me some like some burgers or whatever, because that was our lunch. That was the money we had for lunch. And I didn't eat it because I wasn't really hungry, which is probably from being super nervous or whatever, and not thinking that anyone was going to buy my prints, because for like the first couple hours, no one was really buying anything. They were just kind of looking. I'm just like, okay, awesome.
Yeah. And I think that's really a good part of like being an artist too, is that a lot of times people, and this is coming from like my personal experience, I usually never buy art like even on the first day, because I really want to see everything and like contemplate everything, and that's like a 3-day con. So if it's a 1-day con, people have a lot less time to think about like how they want to spend their money.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah. And like I said, I didn't, that was, after that pumpkin spice latte, that was it. That was all I had until 5 o'clock. I had a headache. I felt nauseous. Just don't forget to eat and hydrate yourself, because it's not fun just having to feel nauseous for the rest of the convention and on the way back home. It's not fun. Another thing is, which is relating to the whole food thing, don't be nervous. Don't feel bad if people don't buy your stuff. Don't get super nervous about it. Because the one I was at was only like a 1-day thing, since it was just like a small town.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't want like a huge, like, big one, which is understandable. Just don't be super like upset if like other people if they don't buy your stuff. It's gonna happen. People are just gonna come by and look. It's totally fine. If be happy about the stuff how much you did sell.
And I mean, from a personal experience too, and I like, again, this is just me like constantly bringing up like being a consumer. A lot of times there's so much that I get so overwhelmed, and I just don't, like, I want to buy something from like everybody, but that's just not realistic. If you have like a business card or something, that's super helpful, because people like myself, I literally come back with, like, from a con, I'll have like a box, like a playing card type box. I'll come back from a convention and that will be full of cards from vendors as well as artists, and then I just spend like a whole evening. I just sit and I go through and I follow people on all their social media, and I check out their Instagram, I check out their Tumblr, their Twitter, their Facebook, DeviantArt, etc. And that way I can still support them and potentially buy stuff from them at another time, because I just wasn't able to at the convention. Like, and I bring this up so often, like, I always like to, I feel like I need to apologize a lot of times. Like, I'll stand staring at somebody's art for like 20 minutes, and then I'll just take a card and I'll have to explain, like, I would love to buy 3 of these prints, but I have absolutely no room for them. And so I feel like that's something that is a good option, is at least having a card, so that way people can continue to support you even if they don't buy anything. And maybe they can buy something later. Maybe they just don't have the money right now, but if you have like an online store or something like that, or like if you have leftovers, people can contact you on your social media and say, do you have anything left over? I would like to buy it now if at all possible. And that just seems like a worthwhile investment, is to make cards and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. I feel like another thing, if people can get, it would be a good investment, is to get like a card reader. Cause
yeah,
there was one person that asked me if I took cards, and I sadly had to say no.
I mean, every time
there wasn't really an ATM nearby either, because like it was hosted at like a 4-H center and like a little ways out of town. So if someone had to go get cash, they had to go into town, I think.
Yeah, and that's a disappointment, I know for sure. There have been a lot of conventions that or anytime I go to a convention, there's usually an ATM very, very close by. When I went to SAC Anime down in Sacramento, you just had to leave the artist alley and go like right around the corner. There was one at the convention hall in Seattle There's one just outside of the like vendor space. There's one right at the end of the hall. So it's convenient to have something like that. And it's actually kind of interesting that you went somewhere that didn't have that. Just
Well,
'cause I've never
it was
experienced
probably
that.
what was in their budget, and it might have been the only space they could get for a convention.
That's true, yeah.
That and they'd been there. I think this was their third or fourth year at that place, so
Oh, okay.
it's probably more familiar to them, probably easier to manage.
Yeah. I know. Like, I've asked the same question constantly. You know, I'll go up to somebody and say, do you take card or just cash? And if they say cash, I usually say, I'll be back in like 20 minutes or something like that. And I finish my rounds before going and getting cash and bringing it back to buy whatever I was going to buy. And a lot of times, it's becoming more and more frequent to find people who are capable of taking card and capable of taking, just using that. It's really convenient, but there are some people that have struggled with it because, you have to have an internet access to use it. And I know at SoccerCon, sometimes, like, they're in a big cement room, and sometimes the Wi-Fi signal there is really bad because they just haven't put a router in there. So or Wi-Fi signal / like phone signal, So they aren't really able to process transactions from time to time. So it's one of those sort of balancing acts again where you have to, like, if you do have it, you have to know the limits of what you're using. But beyond that, I think it's totally fine, and I think it's super cool. That more and more people are doing it because they're making themselves more accessible to people.
Yeah.
Because a lot of, nobody really carries cash around anymore. Because why should they?
Yeah. I didn't think about a card reader until that was brought up to my attention. I walked around later on during the day and, like, pretty much everyone had, like, a card reader, probably because they've been doing this convention for more than 1 year.
Yeah, and I know...
And I completely forgot that PayPal you can order one from PayPal.
Yeah.
And that slipped my mind completely.
I actually, back this past year for BayCon, PayPal, if I'm not mistaken, PayPal actually offered to send us some of those readers, and we provided them to... I don't think we provided them to artists, but we did provide them to some vendors to make things more convenient for them. And, I don't remember if we had to send them back. I really don't. But regardless, there is always that option. Square, I'm trying to remember. I think you have to pay for a Square account, but I don't remember.
I have no idea. I've only really used PayPal.
Right, and so PayPal does have its own readers now. So if at all possible, get one of those, and as long as you have a PayPal account or can use a PayPal account, then you have slightly more options than just saying, I only take cash. Because, again, not everybody carries cash around with them. So, beyond that, like, doing artistry and everything like that, like, do you have any plans, like, projects, plans, like, are you doing anything right now that you're kind of excited about with your art?
I don't know if this really counts as art. I guess so, because, like, there's kind of some art that needs to be made to go into it. But recently, the head of the studio that I sort of work for, they're not really... There was some stuff that happened with them. I'm not going to get into that because that's discourse, and I don't need that in my life.
Yeah.
But the head of the studio bought the program RPG Maker for me because I've had this idea for about 6 months or a year now that I wanted to get out, but I didn't really know how to do it because comics take forever. And knowing how long a Homestuck's been around,
yeah,
I wasn't willing to go down that road because I don't have that kind of time. I don't have the kind of time Hussy has. or really anyone that does webcomics. I don't have the time for it. I don't have the patience for it. I would rather put a bunch of time and effort into something and get it out there and have it all be there.
Right.
Which led me to either doing a visual novel or a game. And I told myself the 3D option was out because I don't know how to rig models or apply textures to them. I'm no way familiar with coding. So I was like, I wonder if... I thought about this a while ago because I had this other idea that was like an RPG as well, but that fell down the toilet, as most of my other ideas do.
Yeah.
And that was RPG Maker. RPG Maker last year came out with a new version of it called RPG Maker MV. And I had this past week, I decided that I wanted to make this idea into a game.
Oh.
I didn't want to go the visual novel route. I just wanted to do it as a game because I feel like that it will immerse the player into the world more than a visual novel could. And you can design it whatever you want. It's not just backgrounds and the characters speaking to each other. You can do whatever you want with it as long as you have, if you know how to do it and have the right plugins.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that would be super cool. Like just to see it in action. But yeah. So the head of the studio bought RPG Maker for me last night, or yesterday morning, I should say. And I downloaded it as soon as I could, and as soon as I got off of work yesterday, I started working on it a bit and downloading all the plugins I thought I would need. I'll probably download some more later on. But yeah, that's one of the many things that's probably going to be taking up my time. I mean, that's super cool. So is that, and I know like you and I we've spoken about this project. So is that the project that you were showing me recently?
I think so.
The Shade Realm project?
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean that already seemed super cool. Like you had a bit of a story outline, and the character designs looked really cool. So I think it's going to be interesting to see more of that for sure. And speaking of creating these characters and stuff like that, so we are both very interested in a show that has recently, they started up the next season of it, and I kind of wanted to talk about it a little bit with you. So Ruby Volume 4 just started recently, and I just wanted to talk about how good it is. It's so good.
I'm dead. That's all I have to say. Especially about the most recent episodes. Just, I'm dead.
Yeah, so yes.
Bye.
Episode 2, we're 2 episodes in now. Just came out a couple days ago, and
yesterday.
And it's so good. It's so good.
I want to die. My poor babies.
We just Ruby is I'm trying to think of like where to go with this. So, what was it that first got you into watching it? Because I kind of wanted to just discuss it a little bit. Like, what was it that made you say this is something that's worth my time?
Well, I'm gonna go a bit off topic here, but I first got into Rooster Teeth because of Achievement Hunter, because I saw this one clip. I think it was like someone drew a Homestuck comic, but used Michael's voice clip from like Rage Quit or something. No, either that or it was the Impossible Game video, and someone was like, whoever is like talking in this video is a perfect voice actor for Karkat.
And I think I recall that exact video as well.
But eventually I subscribed to Achievement Hunter, and then eventually Rooster Teeth, because they had like some like Rooster Teeth live videos, which is basically just like funny, like kind of like vlog type videos, I guess. Where like they would get into shenanigans. And there was just a bunch of goofiness going on, and I'm like, okay, it's cool. I'll subscribe to them for these and stuff. And then I was going through the channel, and I don't remember. I think it was. I think they were all of the trailers were uploaded after I subscribed, But I saw the trailers. I'm just like, hey, I like anime. This is anime-esque. This
Yeah.
looks cool. And then uh the first episode aired, and I loved it. I was like, yep, sticking around for wherever this goes.
I don't think I really got involved in it until after Volume 2 had started, which I actually remember the very first time I watched it was actually at Anime Night. This was several years ago. It was an Anime Night at the library,
Several
and
years ago, Ruby wasn't even existent then, probably.
well, no, at the time it was. It was during this time. Like when I say several years ago, it was just after Volume 1. I think Volume 1 was still going at the time. It wasn't complete yet. And so what to give a little bit of backstory, we are a licensed or the library is licensed or whatever, or Jennifer is licensed, I'm not sure, to showcase pretty much any anime that's on Crunchyroll. She is allowed to show any anime that's up on Crunchyroll right now during Anime Night. So that's how we're allowed to have those screenings legally, is just because she's licensed to do so. And we usually hold polls on the Anime Night or the Bacon or whatever Facebook page, or Bellingham Anime page, I should say, not the Bacon page, but usually there's a poll saying, okay, what should we watch tonight? And there's like a couple, popular anime that are listed, and then there was, I don't know if there still is, I haven't participated in the polls in quite a while, but there was, at the time, option to like add your own choice, and I guess Ruby won that particular month. And what ended up happening was they played like from the first video, not the first episode, but they played from the first video, which was the red trailer. And so I watched all the trailers, and I was like, that's kind of cool, but like I have no idea what's going on. I have no, and I thought it was episodes. I didn't realize that it was trailers. I thought it was episodes. So I remember kind of going, I have no idea what's going on in this show. And I kind of tuned out. I was there, I was in cosplay, my friends were there, so I kind of paid less attention to the show and more attention to my friends. And I remember, kind of liking the art style, but since I wasn't sure about what the show was about, I just kind of ignored it for quite some time. And then while Volume 2 was coming out, it wasn't fully out yet. I had somebody who was telling me that he had been watching it, and he was suggesting that I should watch it. Repeatedly he was suggesting that I watch it. And eventually I decided I was going to do it partially just to kind of shut him up, but also partially because I was still curious about the show, having only seen so much. So I went back and I watched the trailers, and then I started watching from episode 1. And as soon as I realized that the trailers weren't actually episodes and that there was a cohesive story, I started getting more into it. And now, we're on Volume 4, and I somehow managed to wake myself up in time to actually watch the episode as it came out on Rooster Teeth's website. So, I mean, it's just a fantastic show. Like, it's so well done, and makes me cry every time. Just every week there's tears.
Another thing is, like, as the volumes have come out, the production quality has gotten better with each volume.
It really has, yeah.
Like, from Volume 1, it was, I think they said it was like just like a small group of people, but now it's gotten, I think Ruby's one of Rooster Teeth's, like, one of their biggest properties, along with Red versus Blue. And
Yeah.
that's why they spend so much more time into it.
I mean, yeah, since Red vs. Blue, is that... I haven't watched Red vs. Blue in a while. Is it still machinima, or is it entirely animated?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I do not watch Red versus Blue. I do not care for it.
I mean, I still think, like, Ruby is such an interesting concept just because it's... Like, it is anime, but it's Western anime, and that's not really something that you see, outside of, like... even things like Avatar aren't considered anime, despite like drawing so much influence from like Eastern stuff and the actual like the character designs and all that, but it's not considered anime. And
People don't really consider Shelter anime because it's Porter Robinson's idea, even though it was animated by A1 Pictures.
right, it's so weird. So you have like this stuff that like it clearly should be, and then like what really sets Ruby apart from things like Avatar and Legend of Korra and stuff like that? Like what sets that apart in your opinion?
I think it's mostly the 3D animation because, and as I've said, the production value has gone up, and because like there were some parts in like Volume 1 and Volume 2 where like things looked really weird because of the way that they had it, because sometimes 3D doesn't really translate well into certain elements or the way you do something, because sometimes planes are just weird, sometimes the camera angles are weird.
Yeah.
Because I think the way they did it is that, I'm not sure how they did it, but they animated Imposer up until Volume 4, I think.
Yep.
And then they switched over to Maya. Either they switched over to Maya in Volume 3. It was one of the two.
I believe it was Volume 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
But sometimes characters looked really weird on the houses or on fields when that they were supposedly running up.
Yeah, I mean...
Sometimes cookies would just randomly disappear as soon as a character touched it.
I actually remember... And they went back and they fixed it, but I remember in Volume 2, during one of the last episodes when Cinder was, being all sneaky and stuff.
Oh, yeah, her mask.
Yeah, she was wearing a face mask that repeatedly disappeared.
Yeah. And
for the DVD and Blu-ray release, and actually the Netflix release too, they did go back and fix it.
Yeah.
Thankfully.
I'm gonna be honest, I didn't catch that the first try.
Yeah.
It wasn't until it was pointed out that it was missing.
And I mean, I noticed it right away because the second shot that they showed her in, and I remember going, why isn't she... Where is it? And then, the following shot, she had it on again, so I'm not really sure what was going on there, but it was still really cool. The constant, like, references, like, not only to their own properties, but to other properties as well. I mean, that big grim fight in Volume 1 was... I've never played a Final Fantasy game, and I remember looking at it and going... This is probably almost an exact copy of a fight from Final Fantasy. And I think one of my friends
Which
confirmed...
grim fight?
The big grim fight with the bird.
Oh, the Nevermore.
Yeah. There was like that big fight and like so much was going on that it really looked like something straight out of Final Fantasy, whether from like a movie or from the games.
Well, I mean, that's what you get from the creator of Dead Fantasy.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was good though, and even back in Volume 1 with like such kind of clunky animation, it was still really well done. And even now, the animation's much more fluid, and it looks really just fantastic. The character designs are all amazing. There's definitely some complaints with the story that I don't want to say that I have, but a lot of people have. But I think that's just people being angry.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
Not every story is perfect, and not everyone's gonna like a story.
Yeah. But
that's something everyone has to learn.
Personally.
Especially Tumblr.
Yeah, oh boy, yeah. Tumblr definitely has its work cut out for it when it comes to stuff like that. Beyond that, though, I think that it was just that it's very excellently done, and I'm super happy to, like, see how it's progressing.
Mm-hmm.
There was one thing I remember seeing that was kind of confusing to me at the time. Somebody mentioned that, like, the volumes weren't... Like, how many seasons did they say they had, like, prepared for?
I think 20.
Yeah, 20 seasons. And somebody pointed out that volumes 1 through 3 are considered season 1. So, basically what they... implying, based on that number, like, using math, that's 60 years
Rip.
of content. And I don't know if I want to wait until I'm 80 to find out what happens to Ruby and the gang, who are still somehow 14 years old.
Anime man.
Yeah, I mean, that's just textbook Ash Ketchum syndrome right there. Who, as far as I know, is still 10 years old, last I heard. Mind you, the last I heard was when they... was in the first episode of the Black-White anime. Because nobody had ever really brought it up, but in the very first episode of the Black and White anime, it was like, this is Ash Ketchum, a 10-year-old from Pallet Town. I was like, are you serious? They're still pulling that? All
Dermatologists hate him.
Yeah, I think more than dermatologists hate him at this point. But, I mean, I don't know how many people who watch this are, like, I haven't watched the Pokemon anime, like, actually in a long time, but Ash actually got kissed in the final episode of the XYZ anime, which aired in Japan recently, and I remember so many people, like, there's always been those people that are like, I bet Ash is gonna, like, get some before Brock, and I don't really think Brock really got anywhere with anybody, and I remember, like, in Pokemon Heroes, how mad Brock was when he got kissed on the cheek, and it could have potentially even been a Pokemon that kissed him on the cheek. We don't even know if it was a human. And now that Brock's not there, Ash is getting kissed on the lips. Which, like, I understand it's a kid anime, but they also didn't show it happen because they wanted, like, a dramatic scene. But it's just so funny, like, these prepubescent children and all the opportunities that Ash had with his... Let's see, what we're going into Gen 7. He's had quite a few female companions, and every single one of them has, like, shown interest in him, and yet this is the only one. I just think that's funny.
Yay, harems!
Yeah! Even in children's anime, we're still introducing the concept of harems.
Looking at you, Sword Art Online.
Speaking of, I'll say, speaking of harems, and it's not quite a harem, not quite a reverse, well, I guess there's some reverse harem, in it. So, you don't really keep up with a lot of, like, modern anime and stuff, or whatever.
Not
like,
really. I don't, unless I, like, hear about it on, like, Tumblr or something, I don't really look that much into it, unless it's like, a classic that I remember from my childhood, like Naruto. I went back and watched the last final episodes of, or the ones that, the last episodes of, like, the war or whatever, that they finally got done animating.
It's actually funny, because I remember going on my Crunchyroll account, and I was like, what was the last episode of ReZero that I watched? And it was just a bunch of episodes of Naruto Shippuden in my watch list. But anyways, so, one of the most recent things that you watched, and I haven't been keeping up with too much stuff.
Oh boy. I
Too
know
much
this is
recent
going.
stuff. Yeah, you do know where this is going. So, one of the most recent things that you watched, that I watched, we're gonna bring it up because it's still got enough popularity to kind of, you know, bring about some interest. Osamatsu-san?
Oh lordy.
So, for those not in the know, Osamatsu-san was kind of like an attempt at creating, like, a reboot sequel to an anime from, like, the 60s called Osamatsu-kun. And basically the premise of it is, like, it's a very, like, western-y kind of anime where every episode is just kind of a random story of pretty much these six brothers, these sextuplets, who, they're all in their 20s, they live with their parents, they have no jobs, have, like, no friends, they're all terrible people,
Yeah,
And
they are.
for some reason, it was one of the most popular anime when it was coming out, and I think it's actually from like last summer, last fall. So
It was. I think it was winter, maybe.
well,
No,
no, because there was a Christmas
fall
episode
probably.
that came out near the end. Yeah, so
But yeah, I think it was fall
so
when it
last
started
fall. So
airing.
it's about a year old now, which it feels like no time has passed at all, just because of like how much content there weirdly is being made for it still. It
Will we ever get a season 2?
God, part of me is like, I want to see more of them. Part of me is like, please God, let them die.
It's like
'Cause-
everyone
Yeah,
thinks that.
part of the reason they did it in the first place was also to celebrate, I think it was like the creator's birthday or something, as well as the anniversary of the show. So there were a bunch of reasons why they made the show. It was funny. There's no denying it was I almost want to say it kind of reminded me of something like Family Guy in anime form though, just because of how like weird and like toilety the humor could be, but it still managed to make you feel things.
I feel
So-
like a way to describe it would be like Lucky Star and like lol random memes.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely seemed like they just wanted to keep people entertained. They wanted to like introduce it to a new group of people because I had never heard of it before. And then they also wanted to bring back probably some older fans as well, you know, some more mature fans.
If they were still alive.
Yeah, if they were still alive. Because, and of course, before, like, the first two, like, Osomatsu-kun series were very, you know, it revolves around them as, like, children, so whenever you watched it, it was all, like, it was obviously for kids, and then now you have it, and, like, I'm pretty sure there were, at least at one point, dicks on the screen, so
Yeah.
I guess that tells you...
Bathhouse scene.
Yeah, the bathhouse scenes. Oh god, actually, yeah, I just remembered the guess guess who this is scene. There was it was funny, but let's like out of all the characters, the most popular was like the most atrocious, most ridiculous character of all of them. He was the most popular.
I hate him.
Why was Karamatsu so popular? Like,
I don't know.
And I mean, I think my attraction to him simply just came from like other people's attraction to him. I started cosplaying him.
Me.
Yeah, I actually bought I legitimately went online and with my own money purchased a pair of sequin pants. Bright blue, obnoxious sequin pants for the sake of being this disgusting Muppet Man. It's like, why did I do this? And there's no answer. There's no answer except maybe the depravity of it. But one thing that's super funny as well, and it's like, is so fandom loves bringing out the worst in people, and people bring out the worst in fandom. But like, what was so there's so much discourse that surrounds the Osomatsu-san fandom. Simply
Lord.
Yeah, and and I'll say this now, like, we're not going to talk about.
Are we really
like,
gonna talk about this?
we're not going to talk about like preferences. We're not going to talk about like good or bad. This is like entirely objective. But there's so much incest. And it's like, the number of characters in Osomatsu-san, there's like 8, maybe, outside of the brothers. There's very few characters outside of the brothers. And like, excluding like the mom and dad, there's still quite a bit of wiggle room that you can work with. Yet everybody just seems to want to draw like the same face like two of the exact same face making out. And that just seems so, like, unique to me out of, like, every fandom I've been in. Like, I've been in quite a few. Like, Homestuck was a whole thing. And then this was just new to me. Like, that it was almost exclusively incest. And I'm not sure why.
I hate Tumblr.
I mean, it's not just Tumblr, though. Like, there's legitimately... We're both aware of this. There's a movie out there. Somewhere.
Can we not talk about it?
That's true. I mean, it's...
I know it exists, I don't really want to talk about it.
It's just so weird.
Also, Matsusana was a mistake.
It really was. I mean, anime was a mistake in general, but, you know, to quote...
Miyazaki was right.
Yeah, Miyazaki was right all along, but I think we knew that from the very beginning. I think we knew that when Oreimo became popular.
Oh, no, can we not? Incest, the podcast.
Yeah, right? I mean, there's...
Do we want to bring up Sword Art Online?
Oh, man.
And now Kirito and his cousin.
There's just so much incest everywhere you look.
Tumblr will literally gut us.
I mean, I'm... It shows up, and I don't know why. It's there for everybody to see, and it won't go away. Like, you think you're safe.
Welcome to anime.
Yeah, like, you watch Sword Art Online and you think you're safe because it's an RPG, but nope. Nope, the sister
And then,
cousin,
tentacles!
Sister, cousin, oh man, there it is. That whole shebang. Did you...
Never talked about it ever again.
Sword Art Online actually is getting a crossover game with Excel World, I believe, very soon as well. And
Never heard of Excel World.
It's another. I don't know if it was an anime. I know that there's been Excel World games, and they're sort of like, oh, we're in a video game, like that kind of thing. Which I remember when I first watched Sword Art Online, I was like, oh, this is fairly unique. And then I heard about Dot Hack and Log Horizon and a couple other things, and I went, oh, this is just garbage. This is just Digimon.
This isn't, yeah.
Digimon's been around since the 90s.
Don't take Digimon's name. Digimon is pure.
That's true.
Don't talk. Don't taint my childhood.
No, Digimon is good, and I'm really happy that like it's
Digimon had no incest, as far as I know.
Yeah, as far as we know. Let's not. Immediately, I was like,
I mean, the Japanese
boy, oh
version
boy.
might have been a bit different. There was a whole lot of censorship in America.
I'm just like sitting here like, boy, oh boy, I really hope that nobody decides to search up Matt XTK and see what happens.
Why?
That's not a good idea, I'm sure.
No, don't. No.
But I mean, I'm glad that
Let's get off
Digimon's...
the whole incest topic.
I'm glad Digimon's bringing back Inner Resurgence. You know, with Digimon Adventure Try, there's been several new games recently.
Thank God.
The cyber, what's it called? Cyber Sleuth, which I've played a little bit of, has actually been fairly entertaining. Mind you, I'm not super into like JRPGs like that, but it's not bad. So seeing more Digimon games and like more people kind of getting into it is really fun. Because I was always like, I was into Pokemon as much as Digimon. Like, they were both super big for me. They were both really good. So
I remember watching Pokemon.
I watched.
I did own a lot.
Yeah, I own.
That's for sure.
On VHS, I think I own like the first 3 VHS tapes. And then, God, what else? And then, like, the 6th Digidestined or whatever, like, episode. So, like, I own, like, the first, like, 8 episodes, and then the episode where they introduced Kari. So there's just this huge
My baby.
gap.
My sweet child.
They're all so fun to like watch. And of course, like the Digimon movie,
I love them all.
I saw it in theaters when it came out because I was super ecstatic.
Oh boy, Angela Anaconda, am I right?
Yeah, Angela Anaconda digivolved to Angelamon.
Kill me.
Like, I still like distinctly remember like watching it, and they have like on VHS, and they have like a special like they're like, stay tuned for a sneak preview of Power Rangers Time Force. I just remember like all of the stuff because I used to like watch that movie all the time on VHS.
Same.
I would watch it constantly just because it was so good. I own more Pokemon VHS tapes than Digimon VHS tapes, but even still, like, they were both my jam. They were both so good, and I'm super excited to like see where Digimon goes from here, just because.
Same.
Like, if I'm not mistaken, Digimon Cross Wars has been going on for like a few years. Which
I have not kept up with it
I
at all.
I think the last
I
one...
tried watching it when it first came out, then I don't know what happened.
I watched a bit of Digimon Frontier, which was pretty good. And then...
Wait. Was Frontier...
Frontier was the one where they turned into Digimon?
Okay, yeah, I thought that was like the one where like they had like... They were like squads or something.
No, that was...
I was like, no, I'm
that
not
was
watching
Digimon
that.
Data Squad, which
that's what it was.
I'm curious about, but I never got around to it. And of course, like, I know that I don't need to watch it in chronological order, but I would prefer to watch it in chronological order. So eventually, I'll finish watching Digimon Tamers again. Which yeah, well, I mean, I used to watch it when I was younger, but I never watched, like, you know, from beginning to end, obviously, because like when you're a kid, you very rarely do that. So now that I'm an adult, you know, and I understand the concept of continuity and timelines and episodes, and I really just want to see more of Gallantmon as well, because Gallantmon was my absolute, like, one of my absolute favorite Digimon. So I'm just hoping to watch more of him.
Terriermon is my baby, and I love him.
Terriermon, I remember when the Digimon movie first came out at Burger King, they had like little plush toys in the kids' meals, and I got Terriermon, and I was so happy. Like, I think that was my first Digimon plush. And I could not have been more happy about it. And I didn't even like Burger King. I specifically went because I was like, there's Digimon toys here. And then, of course, after that, I got quite a few more, you know, because I love plush toys. So it was like, I had a bunch of Pokemon, so I was like, I need to balance this out. But beyond that, there's not a whole lot of, like, anime that I've been watching too recently besides ReZero, which has been done for a while, I think, for, like, couple of weeks now, and I haven't finished it yet. Hoping to do that soon, and then I don't know, I've been suggested 10,000 anime to watch, so I don't know where I'm going to go with that. Like, is there anything that you've seen that's been out recently that's kind of caught your interest?
Not really.
Not really. I mean, I can't even really think of any other anime that have come out recently that have been kind of good looking. Like, geez.
Oh, I remember I told you about this. So you and I are both fans of Juby Phonic, who is a singer on YouTube who covers Vocaloid and other
like
songs.
She's done like anime openings and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I think it was 2010 or around 2010 to like 2014, between somewhere in that timeline, she sang a cover of this one song. It was called Confession Rehearsal or whatever, and I didn't know this back then because I was just a wee little child. I say that, but I was like in 8th grade. But there was that song was linked to other songs. It was kind of like a whole. Oh, what was that? Don't remember what that other anime was called. That kind of fell off the radar after the first couple episodes.
Was it Makaku City Actors?
Yeah, that was it.
Okay, so the whole Kagaru project thing.
Yeah, that series of like songs and videos got made into like a little like anime movie. Mm-hmm. And I watched it a couple weeks ago, and oh my god, I love.
Was it
I
actually
love
really
them.
good?
I thought it was pretty good.
See, I watched Makaku City Actors as it was coming out simply because I liked the art style. And I have to go back and watch it again because, I'll be honest, I watched the whole thing as it was coming out. Like, every week I would watch the new episode. I have no idea what it was about.
I don't think anyone does.
It was just one of those things.
I dropped it, like, after, like, the second episode, because I was like, I have no idea what's going on at all.
It feels like it was narrated, or not narrated, but directed by Quentin Tarantino. Like, it felt very Pulp Fiction-y because it sort of seemed like it was out of order, almost. Because there was, like, a lot of flashbacks and flash forwards. Like, the scene that you open on the first episode isn't addressed again until, like, the third or fourth episode. Because suddenly it's a flashback for the next couple episodes.
It was a lot like the first season of Durarara, where, like, it was kind of just, like, bouncing around everywhere.
A little bit. It really becomes more cohesive near the end, but I'm still very confused by it, so I'm gonna go back and, like, rewatch it, and maybe if I binge the whole thing at once, maybe the story will become clear to me. But beyond that, I have no idea. Just no clue whatsoever. So it looks like we are winding down towards the end of our show, which thus far has gone fairly well. I'm not used to doing it through Skype, not used to doing it non-personally, but I did enjoy.
Someday.
Yeah, I know, right? So is there anything else that you wanted to add on to the end here and, let anybody know or anything like that?
Mm.
Okay. Well, so thanks for coming and being here with us and just sharing your insight into art and anime and fun stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this has been Jeremy with Berserkbrandee. You can check out her Tumblr, DeviantArt, Facebook. Those are all under Berserkbrandee. If you are interested in being a part of the show, go ahead and send an email to bellinghamanime@gmail.com with the subject line podcast, and we can discuss getting you in on the show as a guest. If you have any questions, you can also send them to us through the email as well, or leave them in the comment section below. Make sure you check out our Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr, website, Bellingham Anime for all of those except for the website. That's bellinghamanimecon.com. We're going to be having registration and stuff, artist alley registration opening very soon. Registration is currently available for pre-registration, so go ahead and check that out. Get your tickets early, get them cheap, and we have some big announcements that will be coming very soon. So thanks again, Brandee, for coming on and creating such a fantastic mascot for us that we're all going to love for the rest of the year.
You're welcome.
All right. And we will see you all later. Bye-bye.